Warhammer Chaosbane. Warhammer Chaosbane takes the classic ARPG format into the modern era, maintaining the same isometric view, 4-play co-op, and class types, but somehow make the whole package feel like it belongs at the tail end of this decade. Combat is fast-paced but deliberate, making you think twice before you run into an enemy encampment or challenge a boss. There's a strategy to learning your enemy's moves, and there's enough variety in the baddies that the challenge doesn't fade quickly. Each of the 4 classes feels distinct and worthwhile, while itemization could have been more inventive for a game released in 2019. All in all, Warhammer Chaosbane offers a polished, yet faithful take on the ARPG genre that's worth the stay and the wait until Diablo 4. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series 10. Titan Quest. While not quite as old as the Diablo franchise, Titan Quest originally released way back in 2006, making it an inarguable veteran of the ARPG franchise. And indeed, Titan Quest is considered a classic, if not quite up there in ranks with its closest competitor, Diablo 2. Titan Quest follows in the footsteps of its recent ancestors, but bucks the tradition of soaking its world in Gothic mythology, demons, warlocks, and hellscapes. Instead, you're dropped into a massive world encompassing real-world locations like ancient Greece, Egypt, and China. The 10-year anniversary edition released in 2016 and includes the base game and the Immortal Throne expansion, as well as a laundry list of improvements to visuals, performance, and multiplayer gameplay. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. Warframe. For an experience with a more modern vibe but the same focus on loot as Diablo, Warframe is worth your consideration. As you might have heard, Warframe is a third-person shooter set in a futuristic world at war with itself. I understand that sounds absolutely nothing like Diablo, and in terms of plot, story, and atmosphere, it really isn't. However, Warframe is also heavily inspired by the RPG genre and looters in particular, making it an ideal choice for Diablo fans in search of a new experience. Better still, it's free to play and available on the 3 big home consoles, leaving you little excuse to ignore it. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series 10, Nintendo Switch. The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing. If you're looking for an indie-priced ARPG with visuals, a story, and gameplay that belie their budget, don't overlook The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing. After it was released in 2013, 2 sequels were released in quick succession in 2014 and 2015, respectively, but the original is the undisputed fan favorite. No doubt inspired by the Diablo franchise, Van Helsing's abilities and class variety most closely resemble Diablo 3, but the skill tree allows for deeper character customization more akin to Diablo 2. Though, unlike Diablo, The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing is another ARPG which doesn't take itself too seriously, with a refreshing amount of humor thrown into the dialogue portions. Otherwise, Van Helsing tells a captivating gothic noir tale in an utterly enchanting world that makes hacking, slashing, and looting about as enjoyable as it gets. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Torchlight 2. Torchlight 2 is another ARPG that doesn't dare stray from the genre recipe, but perfects each ingredient for a standout, if derivative final product. Of course, Torchlight isn't without its own identity, as it takes some small liberties to distinguish itself as more than a Diablo clone. You can have pets, go fishing, and enjoy a robust and lively modding community. But at its core, Torchlight 2 does what ARPGs do best, and does it better than most. It makes sense considering developer Runic Games was formed by 2 co-creators of Blizzard North and Diablo itself, but the exceptional kill, loot, and upgrade grind at Torchlight 2's center can't be overstated. Game available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. Victor Vran. Another isometric ARPG you can't help but compare to Diablo. Victor Vran isn't innovative, but it is exceptional. Of course, calling Victor Vran a Diablo clone isn't giving it enough credit, nor is it accurate. You won't find different classes here, the combat includes jumping and dodging, the weapon sets are entirely different and include guns, and the lore is infused with a heaping dose of largely effective humor. Victor Vran does also borrow elements from games like Torchlight and Bastion, but it delivers each element and mixes them so seamlessly that it carves its own identity. And with its own unique style and setting, Diablo fans looking for a slightly different direction would do well to check out Victor Vran. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. Path of Exile. Like Grim Dawn, Path of Exile is for the Diablo fan not looking for anything new, but rather a sequel to Diablo 2 that isn't Diablo 3. Better yet, it's entirely free to play, and a laundry list of substantial expansions since its release in 2013 have made Path of Exile a premier choice for Diablo fans looking for an honest-to-goodness isometric ARPG. Like any active game in the modern era, there are microtransactions, but Path of Exile is careful not to include real-world money in any element that affects gameplay. Speaking of gameplay, Path of Exile is very well built around the ARPG, Diablo-inspired foundation of kill, loot, upgrade, rinse, and repeat. But steeped in rich lore, unique additions to the ARPG formula, and impressively consistent updates, Path of Exile offers the very best of the ARPG genre, free to play or otherwise. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Game Darksiders Genesis. Darksiders is one of the more well-known series on this list, but it's also one of the more overlooked by fans of Diablo looking for something similar. With Darksiders Genesis, which released December 5th for PC and Google Stadia, it's never been so tempting for Diablo fans to turn their attention to the Darksiders universe. Watching the trailer, you'll immediately spot the one key resemblance to Diablo, with Darksiders Genesis embracing an isometric view instead of its predecessor's third-person perspective. That said, Darksiders Genesis is a Darksiders game through and through, and the best entry in years. Gorgeous, fast-paced, and unexpectedly funny, Genesis is the magnum opus of the Darksiders formula in Diablo-like clothes. Game available on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. Loot River. If you like the hack-and-slash component of Diablo and the top-down perspective but want something fresh to shake up the formula, look no further than Tetris meets Dark Souls indie action RPG Loot River. Sure, we may have referred to Loot River as godless and a big old bully in the past, but that hasn't stopped us from logging dozens of hours into its clever Tetramino-based world. Loot River takes a fairly conventional roguelike, that is, one with procedurally generated worlds and permadeath, and adds the ability to move the ground underneath your character to solve environmental puzzles and get the drop on enemies. What results is a brutally punishing, but ultimately rewarding Diablo-like that'll keep you coming back for just one more try. Game available on PC. Grim Dawn. For those looking for an experience as faithful as possible to the Diablo franchise, Grim Dawn is one for your radar. Oft described as a spiritual successor to Diablo 2, Grim Dawn's selling point is that it offers the deep character building, engaging story, and grim mood many felt were missing from Diablo 3. What Grim Dawn also offers is immensely satisfying grinding and hack-and-slash gameplay. Of course, Diablo 3 wound up a juggernaut despite its woes at launch, meaning you won't find as thriving nor diverse a community in Grim Dawn. Still, its successes in capturing the magic of old-school ARPGs elevate Grim Dawn far beyond any other Diablo-like. Game available on PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series 10.